The house was built by Louis B. Mayer, and was later owned by the famous Peter Lawford, who had these guys, he had these famous brother-in-laws called Robert and John Kennedy come by, and then they had Marilyn, and you know, God knows what else was going on.
Tell everybody about this house now that you're referring to. John thought this might be a good idea to kind of house everybody together.
He always thought that it was a good idea. Let's get all the musicians together under one roof, because nobody gets there on time. You know, nobody gets there on time. And so we get all these people. There's only a limited amount of people, so we had to figure out who's going to do this. So Harry, because we were doing Harry Nilsson's album, Pussycats, we had the main bedroom. So John and I took the main bedroom. He kept saying, I remember when we walked in and he goes, so this is where they did it. Stupid me, I had no idea what that meant. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, Marilyn. Oh, duh. So we had the big bedroom, and when we come out, to my left was Ringo's room, to my right was Keith Moon, and then there was a little alcove with 2 more bedrooms, and that was Harry Nilsson, and, oh, maybe 3, sorry. There was Harry Nilsson, Hillary Gerard, who was Ringo's business manager at the time, and Klaus Vormann. So we all stayed in that, and then during the day we had that array of musicians.
Including Paul McCartney.
Yeah, that guy too.
Now there's a fantastic picture right over here of John and Paul sporting a Sgt. Pepper mustache, if you look close over there.
Yeah.
And that's just an amazing picture, one of the last times that
they're just sitting there talking.
Just chatting. And it was during this time that May also got to witness John and Paul jamming together. Stevie Wonder and May Pang, I believe, was on Vibes.
Yeah, I was on there. I was there with my tambourine women. We also had Mal Evans, the original roadie.
Can't forget Mal.
Yeah, you can't forget Mal. And then you had all these musicians. We didn't have a drummer. Can you imagine? We didn't have a drummer. Ringo left. Keith Moon left. Jim Keltner left. So we said, we don't have a drummer. We need somebody. So who decides? The bass player, Mr. McCartney. But you know what was terrible? He played so hard that the next day, another Beatle comes in and says, what just happened? His snare drum was broken. And yeah, and I believe I heard that Paul said, oh, he'll get over it. And he never got over it because it was a special snare drum, a special head. It was one he used for Ed Sullivan. Oh. I just found that out recently. Because we couldn't figure out why. And, you know, Billy Amendola was a good friend of mine. Because I finally found out. That's the reason. Every time you mention that, he cringed. So now we know.
So May, you're with John after this happens, right? Okay, so Paul goes home. Paul's with Linda, right?
Yes.
Paul and Linda go home, and you guys go home. What did John say to you? Okay, did he mention, like, hey, I just jammed with Paul for the first time since, you know,
no, he did. He acted normal. He said, oh, that was good. That was a good time. All right. That was it. Because to them, it was just nothing. You know, it was like, even though they hadn't seen each other about 5 years at that point, it was like, it was like, I hate to use the term, but it's like yesterday for them. You know, they got together. And it was
just another day.
Just another day for them. Just another day, and what else do we put in there?
Nobody told you it would be a day like that. So, also, at the same time that they're doing the Pussycats album, you're taking all these pictures. And now you're cognizant at the time that you're hanging out with rock royalty. I mean, you know this. You're a rock and roller. You know this.
You gotta think. I looked at it from a different point of view. I was just taking pictures. I love taking pictures. I was just in the moment. I said, oh, this looks like a good shot.
But you knew these guys. It wasn't Uriah Heep you were
no,
of course. It was like they were hanging out with, you know, members of the Who and the Beatles.
That's true, but it wasn't like that. They were so friendly. I mean, here's the thing. Keith Moon came up to me and says, I'm so glad you're here. I said, what do you mean? He said, this is the John I remember. Thank you. I mean, that, how sweet is that? That was the first one I met. And it was really lovely. And you understand it. But here's the funny part. I come, and I heard stories about him, you know, and his antics. When he first arrived, he got everything put in, and he goes, May, come in here. I said, okay. And I didn't know what he was going to do. So he opens up the drawer, you know, the dresser drawer, top one, he goes, do you need anything? And I looked in there, and there's this dresser drawer full of whatever you want to help you medicate yourself out.
Medicine.
Medicine. And I just sort of looked at it and I went, he did not know I didn't take drugs. I didn't drink. I'm like, oh, I said, you know what, thank you, but right now I don't need anything. He goes, don't forget it. I said, yeah, I know, if I need something, I'll do that.
Interested in a stormtrooper outfit, because he would take costumes with him a lot.
Oh, listen, John thought that he was really out of it when he started telling us stories how he left the car in the middle of the lobby of a hotel. And John would look at me like, oh crap, this is nuts. I said, yeah.
And one of the other great things about the film The Lost Weekend, A Love Story, is that you really learn a lot more about the relationship between John Lennon and Paul McCartney in 1974, 75, and going into 76 almost. It's like amazing, you know, that how close they were. They were hanging out in Dakota. John was contemplating going to New Orleans and recording with Paul. He's talking to May about that. Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, what happened was he was going over to Dakota for a visit, and you know, but prior to that, we had about a week before, Paul and Linda had come to visit us in the city, and they were always at our apartment. So he was telling John, oh, guess what, I'm gonna go, we're going down to New Orleans, we're making a new record, which of course subsequently was Venus and Mars. And John said, New Orleans now, that interests him. And so he said, yeah, you know, I'll be down there. I said, okay, he left, fine. A couple of days later, I'm working on something, and because I hear John going, May, I gotta talk to you. I said, what, I gotta ask you a question. I said, what? And he goes, what do you think if I wrote with Paul again? I said, what? I said, I think it's a good idea. And now, mind you, they just signed the official contract to break up the Beatles. So I said, I think it's a great idea. And he goes, well, why? He asked me one question, now you want to know why. I said, you guys are good as soloists, but together, no one could beat your writing. And he goes, okay. And I knew that if I had gotten him down to New Orleans, you would have had a Lennon McCartney gathering there.
You have to watch the film to find out why John didn't go to New Orleans. Now let's talk about some of these photos. Now this is an interesting one. As I recall, you should probably talk about the pants.
Yeah, you know, I woke up one morning and I see John standing in front of me. He goes, look! And I go, look why? I'm looking at it.
By the way, I love how you two talk to each other. You're like the Cramdens.
Yeah.
Why? Come on.
It's
like,
true.
You guys
he
are
goes,
comfortable.
he goes, look at this. I said, I know. Why are you in my jeans? And he goes, but they fit. I said, yeah, but why are you in my jeans? So he liked it so much, I had to give it to them. But you see, the trike, we were on our way back, it's the Calico Ghost Town, and we were coming back from Las Vegas. And he kept staring at this bike to the point that I said, all right, why don't you just go stand there? And I took one picture, and that's it. And I didn't even know if I had the shot. I didn't even do a backup. So that's it.
Who wore the pants in that relationship?
Yeah.
Now this one is a favorite, right?
Yes.
Of Mr. Lennon?
Of Mr. Lennon's. That is his favorite because of his sweater. It's an Irish sweater.
That's a great shot.
But it was like we were staying in Ellenville. A friend of mine had a house up there. We wanted to get away for the weekend. Just before the start of tackling the finishing up the rock and roll album. And so my friend had two dogs, they look like wolves here. Shazam, which is a bigger head dog there, and Delilah. And as we were walking, obviously it's fall. And I thought it was so beautiful, so as he's walking, I yelled out to him, so I dropped back. And I yelled out, and he turned around, and that's the photo I took of him. Now, the best part about it is, after John and I broke up, he came to me and he said, can I use this photo? Because in the UK, they were releasing Imagine as a single. And I said, of course you can. because that's my favorite picture. So, and what he did, and I did not know this, he actually released it on my birthday.
Wow.
That single was released on my birthday. I had to look it up myself. I couldn't believe it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What do we got going on here? This is an interesting sweater choice for John. It looks
Yeah,
like
it was somebody